lot, up by 12 points on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And we, in just a few minutes, are going to go back live to the question and answer session with the Fed chairman.
But before we do that, we want to bring in Republican Congressman Spencer Bachus from Alabama. He is chairman of the House Financial Services Committee. He joins us now from Capitol Hill. Congressman, great of you to be with us this morning. Congressman Paul Ryan asked Ben Bernanke this very thing, whether the low interest rate, easy money policy from the Federal Reserve is essentially giving Congress and the White House a pass to be fiscally irresponsible. Do you think that the Federal Reserve is part of the bigger problem?
Well, the Federal Reserve has had to keep interest rates down to give the Congress an opportunity to address our long-term structural problems with our entitlement program. So I would be a little more positive and say that the Federal Reserve, I've called it the Bernanke put. He's given us time, and he's actually come before our committee in Humphrey Hawkins' testimony and literally pleaded with us to make long-term structural changes in our entitlement programs, because that's the only way you'll come up with $5-6 trillion that you're going to have to save.
But you have not done that. I mean, broadly speaking, Congress has not addressed that.
No, they hadn't. And the House has passed a major reform. Not enough. The Senate's done absolutely nothing, and the President really hasn't joined the debate other than to make some speeches. But, the pattern, we've had several commissions, and they've laid out for us what to do. And I actually was optimistic about the Gang of Six last year. But it apparently was just too big a pill for the Congress and the administration, and I think that's a shame.
One place where the President has joined the debate is over housing and how to fix the housing mess with this refinancing plan that came out this week. I know that you, Congressman, called this a plan that wasn't serious, not a serious plan. What do you think of the big problems with the President essentially trying to refinance a lot of these mortgages that are underwater?
Well, Connell, I think he was serious in his proposal, but I don't think it's a serious proposal in that, I think Democrats, Republicans, even, I think you would agree that every government foreclosure plan has been a disaster. It's left things worse. All of them have failed. And basically, to quote Albert Einstein, insanity is to continue to repeat time and time again what doesn't work, hoping for a different result. And that's what this is. This time he wants FHA to pick up these mortgages. And what you're talking about is $3 or $4 million. You're talking about probably 3 million mortgages on top of the 7 million that the FHA already insures. And the FHA, you're talking about that would be $7 trillion worth of obligations. They only have $2.4 billion in reserve, and the President himself said, this program is going to cost $10 billion. So that's $7.5 billion that the taxpayers right off the bat. That's a given that they would have to take that up. You'll have a bailout of FHA later this year.
So
he actually, when he talked about that plan, Dagan, he actually said no more bailouts. He proposed the plan, then he said no more bailouts. But it would lead to a bailout, I think, later this year of FHA, unless the economy improves. And let me say this, the best foreclosure plan is a job.
Well said, Congressman. But conversely, you talk about the FHA and the possibility of a bailout later this year, and then you throw in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and you have the federal government, Uncle Sam, touching almost every mortgage that is made in this country, the vast majority of them. So conversely, are you in favor of shrinking government involvement? Because you could easily do that. You could, lower the rates that the size of the mortgages that the FHA touches. You could do more to reduce the home mortgage deduction. Are you in favor of that?
Well, let me say this. The best way to revive the housing market is to revive our economy. So, the single thing I would say that's been the biggest mistake this month is that 1 million barrels of oil every day that's going to go to China and create jobs in China. The Keystone Pipeline, 20,000 jobs immediately. And 100,000 created over the next 3 years. Now that to me is a job program. That would, that's a foreclosure mitigation program right there. We've passed 30 bills out of the House to create capital. Now you have to have capital and workforce. That creates economic activity. They're over in the Senate. We've said to the President, if you want to address foreclosures, address the economy, create jobs, and there are 30 bipartisan bills that are over in the Senate. Pick up the phone, call Harry Reid, tell him to pass those bills. In fact, the President endorsed several of those bills in his State of the Union. But don't do this. You mentioned that I think 92% of our mortgages are now insured by the federal government.
Right.
This would probably take it up to 95%. Now, what we have proposed to Republican, instead of, you've asked about Fannie and Freddie, we've proposed private market crowding out the government. Now, the administration has said the same thing, but we've yet to see their program. We've proposed a program which they've resisted. They've said would be dead on arrival in the Senate. So until they agree that the private market has got to grow that share, I'm afraid we are at a loggerhead. But we've had some 6 or 8 hearings this year on the private market.
All right, Congressman Spencer Bachus, the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee. We're going to return to our coverage of Chairman Bernanke right now, but we hope you come back and talk about these issues with us in the future. Congressman.